What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. We all knew that Alberta Independence was going to have some hurdles to cross when it began its process earlier this year, at least the announcement earlier this year after Mark Carney's win during the federal election, that, hey, this is the final nail in the coffin for Alberta. We're now considering using our rights to run a citizen-led initiative to push for independence. Now, ultimately, Danielle Smith during that time has brought in Bill 54. If you're unfamiliar with Bill 54, essentially it lowered the threshold to allow for citizen-led initiatives on referendum ballots to be easier to obtain, meaning less signatures required than previous. Danielle had always felt that those signatures were at an impossible threshold. Yet we're running into some issues. And I've always said that as the closer we get to the point where we're able to get an application approved, that we're able to start garnering signatures. When we look at little Tom Lakazuk's petition to try and side rail what Alberta Prosperity Project is trying to do with its main petition, there's a lot of gears working all at once in the clock. Now, I've always said that when it comes to hedge fund holders, when it comes to the federal government, when it comes to anybody else, they're going to do everything they can in their power to stop what is going on with Alberta Independence. Unfortunately, there's a whole kerfuffle going on right now, and I use kerfuffle in the best term possible. Usually I call this kind of stuff a Mongolian cluster F, but here we got Jeffrey Raff tweeting out the other day, Elections Alberta has filed a question with the Court of King's Bench as to whether the question, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province of Canada, complies with the Constitution Act of 1982. We all know that it does. But again, this is them trying to put distractions in the work. This is essentially halting the process. Bill 54 was brought in and meant to be a method that allowed citizens to get a driven initiative with their signatures approved easier. And I'm going to get into that later in the video, but Danielle Smith is running into a bit of a problem here. He says down here, Jeffrey Rath says the obvious answer is how can a question that strictly complied with Section 1-3 of the Clarity Act be unconstitutional? It's a very good question. Down here, you've got the news release that the Chief Electoral Officer has stated a question to the Court of King's Bench to the Citizen Initiative application received by Elections Alberta on July 4th. So essentially what it's doing is it's halting the application until they're satisfied with what's going on. This could essentially put what the APP is doing into limbo. You've got Mickey Amory chiming in. Response to the Citizen Initiative process. The recently passed amendments to the Citizen Initiative Act are intended to be broadly permissive and to allow Albertans the opportunity to launch a referendum petition without needless bureaucratic red tape or court applications slowing the process. As it is the government of Alberta that ultimately decides how or if to implement any referendum result, those government decisions will ultimately be subject to constitutional scrutiny, meaning that if a referendum were to be successful, it's up to the government to take on the scrutiny of what the constitutions are. I'll remind everybody that Danielle Smith had said when putting out Bill 54 that her mandate is to have a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, or strong Alberta within a united Canada, and that until she gets another mandate, until she receives another mandate from her people, that is the direction she's going. Mickey goes on to say that we encourage Elections Alberta to withdraw its court reference and permit Albertans their democratic right to participate in the Citizen Initiative process. You've got good friend of the channel, Eva Chipiak, chiming in saying, I would add the issue of cost. And it goes on to say her other quote that I would also raise the issue of cost. The cost of defending against this kind of court application can have a serious chilling effect on the democratic process. You've got a lot of people saying, I have a question. What do you mean by how or if? Meaning, as the government of Alberta, they ultimately decides how or if to implement any referendum result. We've seen this brought up many times, and this is where my concern comes in now. When you look at foul play, when you look at what's the whole point of what we're doing. We ran a referendum when Fat Stalin, Jason Kenney, was Premier of Alberta, and it was on the motion of transfer payments. It was, do we want to keep continuing paying transfer payments across the country when we're not being allowed to expand our oil, our pipelines, or our resources? An overwhelming amount of Albertans, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, said, yes, stop saying them, turn the taps off. We don't want it anymore. Well, Jason Kenney did nothing with it. And this is what a lot of people have said from the beginning. I've seen a lot of naysayers. I've seen a lot of people in the comment sections since we've been covering this topic saying, hey, it's never going to happen. Alberta's not going to go anywhere. They don't have to acknowledge Alberta wanting to gain its independence, even if you get a referendum vote. But again, Danielle has given her word that if a citizen-led initiative were to overwhelmingly support a question on a ballot, as long as it doesn't violate treaty rights, which it wouldn't be able to if it was approved as a question in the first place, then she will stand behind what her citizens are mandating her for, what her constituents ask for. So while you've got Mickey Amory saying we shouldn't have to go through red tape and everything, you now have Danielle Smith chiming in saying, although I believe in Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada, Minister Amory is right. Albertans have a democratic right to participate in the citizen initiative process. They shouldn't be slowed down by bureaucratic red tape or court applications. So essentially, Danielle, for anybody who says that Danielle's not standing on the side of independence for Alberta, that, well, she's just trying to delay it. If she really wanted to delay it, she wouldn't be making these quotes. She believes in the democratic process, and she believes in giving Albertans a voice, which was the whole reason she brought in Bill 54 to begin with. So anybody who wants to tell me Danielle doesn't believe in this, until she says otherwise, I'm sorry, you're going to have a hard time convincing me at least. You've got Jeffrey Rath chiming in again saying, why do you want to keep Albertans chained to the rotting corpse of Canada? Meaning he wants Danielle to take a tougher approach. So everybody can talk about these things, but just like Mark Carney, what's the use of all this if all we're doing is talking? There's no action. So as of right now, we're waiting to see, as again, at the time of filming this video, Mickey Amory's made his statements. Danielle Smith has made her statements. So again, any changes, I will update the channel as to what's happening with the application. But you have Jeffrey Rath, and this is where I think Danielle Smith finds herself in a huge problem. While we've all said from day one, she can't just come out and say, I support an independent Alberta. She'd be shooting herself in the foot to those who aren't ready to put yes on a referendum ballot to leave. She's putting herself in a bit of a quagmire here because you got Jeffrey Rath pointing out the obvious. I think Danielle Smith realized how much fun I was going to have with this and is now trying to get out in front of particularly the NDP move by her chief electoral officer. Given that 70% of the UCP-based supporters support independence, she should call Mitch Sylvester's question under the Referendum Act. So he's calling out Danielle Smith's claim here. This is where Danielle is going to run into a huge problem if she doesn't do something quick, if she doesn't resolve this and at least start showing some support in some direction, not full on turn it up to 11 direction, but some form of support. You have to remember the United Conservative Party is Danielle's party, and 70% of them, we talked about this in another video where we showed the statistics. The UCP voters are the ones who gave her her mandate, the ones who put her in power, the ones that will keep her in her job if she wishes to remain premier should independence fail. But 70% of her base supports independence. So if Danielle doesn't jump on that train and at least get serious and tough against Ottawa real quick, she could find herself in a real problem. And before people say, oh, Fringe, Danielle can't do those things, you don't know what you're talking about, it's not going to be like that. We support Danielle 100%. Take a look at this account here, Alberta Separation. Now, people are going to say it's a separation account, but this is all over social media. I'm merely using this one account as an example. I see these posts all day long. Danielle Smith had pointed out, here's the fact, Canadians want more pipelines. It's time to deliver affordable energy across the country, boost our exports, and finally start acting like energy-rich nation. We are in a country that's not holding itself back. So here's the problem with this. Again, we've covered stories of Danielle coming out saying, we've got deals with Saskatchewan and Ontario to run pipelines to refine our oil, and Wab Canoe comes in saying, nope, I'm not going to play ball. You need the permission of First Nations to do those things. Mark Carney has come in saying that you need the permission of First Nations to do any projects now. And we already know what he's doing. He's passing the buck so that when this doesn't go through, just like Trump's negotiations, he can say, oh, well, hey, I was willing to. I'm a great negotiator, guys. I was willing to do all these projects. However, not everybody agrees with them. So unless they all do, my hands are tied. I'm just here as an observer. We're never going to get a deal. Ottawa and Quebec will never take the West seriously. Danielle Smith gave a timeline to say to them that you need to either invest in Alberta and show Albertans that they have a seat at the table, or you're going to have a national unity crisis. I think it's at least high time Danielle declare said unity crisis. She doesn't have to back independence. She doesn't have to come out and say, I fully support anything beyond a citizen-led initiative, but she does at least have to come out and say, we've asked, you've refused, you now have a unity crisis on your hands, my hands are tied, my people will decide the future of Canada. Nothing wrong with that. The reason I say that, and the reason she's getting this pushback, this account in particular, Danielle, here's the fact. Canadians do not want pipelines. People that elect David Eby in BC want wind turbines. Majority in Quebec want oil to stay in the ground. Torontonians' alternative reality excludes Alberta. Atlantic Canadians just want handouts from Ottawa. Alberta and Saskatchewan are distinct culturally. We should both separate from Canada. Now, again, I understand that the account is called Alberta Separation, but this is the consensus when you get onto social media. This is what I hear when I'm walking around town, when I'm talking to people. Whenever you hear people talking about separation, I've never once heard one person, one individual, aside from a few who are open to discussing what the benefits are, that they want to stay in Canada. The majority are saying, we get it, we understand, we get the benefits. There's more in it for us if we leave. It's time to go. Danielle Smith is going to find herself in the fall in a very tough position if she doesn't start taking a more concrete stance against the federal government. She has done her job. She's done her due diligence. She has stood up and said, I want a united Canada. Here's what we're proposing. Here's the projects we want. She can continue to fight for those projects. But at the very least, in my opinion, I think that she needs to start showing some teeth now. Now's the time to push back. Now's the time to get through that red tape that the Alberta Prosperity Project is facing and say, look, it's a reasonable question. It does not violate treaty rights, and it is approved for a citizen-led initiative so they can start garnering their signatures. Stop delaying the inevitable. Get us to a vote and come out and tell the federal government the same thing Mark Carney's doing by saying, hey, nobody wants a pipeline, so I can't do anything. Danielle should be coming out saying, hey, I tried to work with you. Now you have a unity crisis on your hands because my people and people in Saskatchewan, some people in British Columbia, as well as Manitoba, are fed up. We're done. I don't speak for those other provinces, but Alberta has a unity crisis on its hands. That is the cause of your actions, Mr. Prime Minister, and the neglect coming from your government. And one little pipeline isn't going to solve that problem. Let me know what you guys think down below. Did you expect that we would run into a delay with the APP application? How long do you expect this delay to continue with Danielle Smith now saying we need to cut through the red tape? Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree that Danielle needs to take a little bit of a harder stance? Let me know that down in the comments as well. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure to hit that button, do a thumbs up, a comment. It all helps right now with YouTube hammering down on censorship with all of this stuff. They're unsubscribing people at an alarming rate. There's many people coming into the comments saying they were unsubscribed. They had to resubscribe. Some saying they have to do it multiple times a week. So if you haven't yet, support the channel. It's free. It helps and it's much appreciated. Join me live each and every week now on Wednesdays and Fridays for our 2 live shows, Unhinged Fringe on Wednesdays, Friday Night Fringe on Fridays. Unhinged Fringe, I am announcing the return of the Celtic Canuck tonight, joining me weekly on a new show. where we're going to talk about everything that doesn't make the cutting room floor. It's going to be a great roundtable discussion, more involved with our audience as well. So we're going to hear what you guys want to talk about and address the issues you guys have on your hands. I'm very excited to welcome Celtic Canuck back to YouTube since her channel deletion. Join me Friday nights for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly live streaming show where I sit down with the beautiful Mrs. Fringe as we talk about everything that happened this week in politics, hearing what you guys have to say outside of making these videos as well. I look forward to chatting with you guys outside of making these videos in both of those live streams. I most importantly look forward to chatting with you tonight in the debut of Unhinged Fringe, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, every week, Friday and Wednesday here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.